Hi, I'm Sam from Interface with Bitrix24 Gold Partners. Thank you for joining today. Okay, so first of all, we'll just go through an introduction. So I'm Sam Connor, Sales Manager here at Interface, and we are Bitrix24 Gold Partners based in the UK, in the US, and Hong Kong. And we offer a full range of services to assist you with Bitrix24. So starting off with pre-sale support, so we can help to analyze your requirements and see if Bitrix24 could be a good fit for what you're trying to achieve. If it is, we can then set up the system for you. So we can design it out exactly how you need it to work. If you're looking at an on-premise version of Bitrix, then we can provide our hosting service, and we also provide ongoing support and essentially proactive advice and training to help you maximize the value that you get from the Bitrix24 system. And if you're coming today to evaluate Bitrix at a high level, I'll just go through what Bitrix24 actually is. So Bitrix24 is a collaboration suite of well in excess now of 35 different tools that you can use to help you to manage your business. There are over 15 million organizations that use Bitrix, and it's available in two different versions. So we have the Bitrix24 Cloud and the Bitrix24 self-hosted solution. Now, when we say self-hosted, essentially it's a private cloud version of Bitrix. So you can host on your own local server on a private cloud, or we could provide our hosting service for you. And in terms of pricing, so prices start from $49 a month for a cloud system, so that's on the basic cloud, or $3,590 for a self-hosted solution in the first year. So as we go through today's webinar, looking at project management, I will make you aware if there are any features where you need to have a certain tier of Bitrix system. Okay. So let's just cover why you can use Bitrix24 for your project needs. So within Bitrix, we have a really powerful system for project management. So you can manage projects in work groups. There's a really nice way to manage then the tasks at the lower level within the project. There are automation processes starting from the professional cloud tier of Bitrix. We can then start to analyze the data from our projects with workload management tools. There's different ways we can view data in projects, from Gantt charts to Kanban to calendar formats. So there's lots of ways we're able to view the data that we have within our projects. And we'll take a look as well at the feature called Collabs, where we can invite external users into a collaboration area where we can share and manage tasks. Okay, so first of all today, we'll take a look at how we can actually manage and create a project inside Bitrix. It's really fundamental for understanding how a project can be managed within the system. So we'll see how we can create a project, and we'll then take a look at a live project where we can see all of the tasks that are being worked on, how we're collaborating on that project, and view the calendar and also the document management sharing options. Okay, so let's go across to our Bitrix system. So just to explain, if you're looking to find where tasks and projects are, you'll see this inside the tasks and projects area of Bitrix24. And if we click into projects, that's where we can then see all of the projects that I have visibility of, or projects where I can request access to join that specific project in the system. Now, I've got the ability to customize the view in this project area, and I can filter through this as well to find specific projects. So if you've got a lot of projects in the system, it's very simple to be able to filter and drill down, and then I can click into that project directly through this project page here. So that's where we store all of our projects. And then the lower level tasks across all those projects, I'll be able to view all of those tasks in my task page here. So I can see everything here. I can see what project that each of these tasks is associated to. And I'll show you through the task area in more detail shortly. Now, as we go through today's webinar, if you have any questions, please do just ask away and then we can answer those on the YouTube channel today. But let's now take a look at how we can create a new project through our system here. So if we click on create, you can see there's several options that are enabled for when we're creating a new project. So first of all, we have the type called project. Now, the key difference here between a project and a workgroup option is with a project, we can have time parameters. So you could then have a start date and an end date on that project. Whereas with a workgroup, you don't need to specify any time parameters. So a very easy way to distinguish here is, let's say you could have a work group for each department within your organization. Okay, so you can put all the tasks, share documents and meetings within the calendar. A department's not going to have a start and end date. It's continuous, it's ongoing. Whereas for a project, let's say a customer's onboarding project, there may be specific time parameters there. So you want to have those times and dates. And then any tasks within a project, they have to have a deadline that is before or on the end date of the project. You can't surpass the end date of the project itself. Okay, so let's now, if we start to create a project here, we can give this a title. Okay, so we can put that in here. You can also add a description. And we can then also choose an icon and a theme as well for the background that is displayed on the project itself. So you can customize this. And then a really nice feature is the parameters feature here. So what we can essentially do with Bitrix is we can turn on and turn off different features that we want to have access to on our project. So let's say here, for example, I want to have tasks. So we're going to be managing lots of tasks within this project. So we turn that on. And I'm going to be sharing documents with people in the project. So I'm going to turn the drive area on. And let's say I want to be able to instantly communicate with my colleagues. So let's turn the chat feature on. But all of the other features I don't need. So I'm going to keep those off so they're not accessible within the project. I'm keeping it simplified for people who are going to be working in the project. Now, in the future, if I then want to add those features, I can come back to this. Okay, so it's very easy for you to turn on additional features later on. So you can see here, let's put in here the actual dates of the project. And you can then see here we've got dates for the project itself. So if we're going to say here, the start date is today, and we're going to have this completed at the end of November. We can also have a subject for reporting purposes. And then now let's start that. Now you can see now we've got the privacy level to select for this project. So if it's public, that means within that project page where I could see all of my projects, it's going to mean anyone can access the project who has access in the Bitrix24 system. Private means you can only access the project if your invite is authorized by the owner of the project. And if it's hidden, it means you're not going to be able to even see the project in the project area. So you can't request access. You'll only ever be able to gain access if the project owner is asked to request you onto that project. Okay, so let's now make this completely hidden. And then we've got our layers of team ownership. So we have a project owner. We then have moderators, so almost like a middle layer of management for the project. And then we can add all of the additional employees into the project. And that's then created the project area. So now we can start to create tasks within here, and we've got our drive and chat area for being able to store documents and do our instant communication through the project itself. So you can see we've got a very simple UI on here, so it's easy for people to be able to navigate through the project. And in the future, if we then want to configure this project, I can come into the edit project area here. And as the project owner, I can then come into here and start to make changes to the project if we want to add additional features into here. It's very easy for me to be able to configure using the project management settings here in Bitrix. So that's how we can create a new project within the system. Now, the other option when it comes to projects, I mentioned earlier on about how we can invite external users into a project. And the way we can do this is by setting up a collab space. So a collab is an area of the system where we can invite our external clients. So this is created the collab space. So we're then inside here, I can either share a link or I can invite an external party using their email address or a phone number. And then that's going to enable them to be able to communicate with us directly through the Bitrix24 system. So if we see here, we have a collab space set up. If we come into our system here, there we go. We've got a collab space here. So what we're able to do is we can communicate with our colleagues directly through here, and because we've got our employees set up in this collab as well, but then we can see the external users who are then able to collaborate with and share tasks with them and documentation directly through a collab space. So the collab is the option you would need to select if you're wanting to then have external parties within your Bitrix24 system. And then let's take a look at a live project now that's currently progressing in our project management area of Bitrix24. So first of all, let's take a look at tasks because it's really fundamental to every project. So here we can see our task area of our web design project. So here, first of all, is all of the tasks of the project. And there are lots of different ways that we can view tasks within the system. So this is the list view. So essentially it's like a table of all of the task data, which you can customize the layout, you can customize what information we show, and you've got a filtering system in all of these views. So you can easily filter and drill down through all of those tasks that are on the system. A very popular view is the Kanban view. So here we can create stages that we progress the tasks through, and that Kanban display is personal to every single project within the system. So you may have another type of project where the number of stages on the Kanban, it may be significantly more if it's a more complex project. That's absolutely fine. You can customize the Kanban stage for each project. The next view here, again, a really popular view is the deadline view. So this is, I think, a really nice view because it instantly shows you where each task is at in comparison to the deadline of that task. So it instantly shows you what you need to be prioritizing within the project. So I can see here what's overdue, what's due today, what's due this week, and then what's due in future weeks for this project. So it's a really nice way to prioritize your work. And with the views that we've got here, what we're able to do is we again can filter through all of this data within the system here. Now, again, if I just look at all of the tasks, I can see all of that complete review here. And once we go into a project task here, we can see all of the information about the task. So you've got the task page, so we can tick off items as they get completed. We've got a communication area, so we can communicate with our colleagues. Okay, so we can have really focused communications rather than having either separate chat areas or conversations on email. You can have focused communications here, or even you could set up an instant chat system about that specific task and start to have instant conversations with your colleagues. Okay, so the way Bitrix works, it's really starting to bring in here, as you can see, some of the other areas of the system in terms of the intranet, so the collaboration tools that we're enabling on our system. Then we also have another view, which is the planner view. So the planner view, it's specifically for the individual person that's working in this project. So another colleague who's on this project could have completely different stages on their planner. It doesn't impact any other user. So you're able to really personalize your planner and then start to work on your tasks and progress them in the planner style that you want for your view. Okay, we also have the calendar view. So this is a view here of the deadlines of the tasks. And then we've got a Gantt chart view, so a higher level overview of the entire project. So you can see here lots of different ways that we're able to view that task information on the project in different ways, because different people work in different ways in terms of being able to visualize tasks. So having all of these views is a great way to be able to allow staff to work in their preferred choice when they're working on tasks. Now, if we want to create new tasks, we can click on the create task page, and quite a new feature here. So this is the simplified task page. So on here, we can input the title of the task, input the deadline for this, and choose who we're making responsible for that task. So we can then instantly add that into the project. So you can see that testing task has now been added in this view here, the deadline view. It's been placed in next week. Now you can also open up the more detailed form page, so we can input a lot more information here about the task. So I can put the title again, but then we're able to have the full detail page here. And you can start to use the Copilot feature inside here too. If you're going to put a lot of detail about the task, we could then have it to summarize that task information using the AI tools within the page here. Okay, and what we can do, so we work with a lot of businesses where they have repetitive tasks, let's say for accountancy firms, where every single month they need to complete tax returns for their clients. So we can, or payroll, for example. So what you can do if you turn on the repeat task mode, we can then have a task automatically recreated at a specific time interval for you. So that's going to automatically be recreated. And also to save time is you can use task templates. Okay, so rather than having to input that information over and over, you could have a template set up where it brings in the predefined information for that task, and then you could input the deadline, who's responsible for the task, etc. And then we could have that added and inputted into the project. And briefly, we'll take a look at automations. So I'll show you how we could also automate the creation of a task shortly. So that's how we can manage the tasks on our projects. But there's also lots of other areas available inside a project. So first of all, here we have the feed area. So the feed area is like a news feed board where we can store communications, send out posts and topics about the project inside the system. So anything related to the project, it's going to display here inside the feed section. And we can filter through this as well to find specific data. There's a drive area, so really popular area this, where you can store documents about the project. We can even put access rights on these documents to control within the project who can access certain documents for viewing. There is the calendar, so we can put project-wide meetings, events into here for sharing. And then, as we've seen earlier on, there's a chat feature. So we're able to have instant chats and communications through the system. But it could also, you can have video calling and voice calling through here as well. Okay, so that is a look at the project groups on Bitrix. If, as I say, if there's any questions, please do ask away. And so we've seen there how we can manually create projects, how we can manually create tasks within the system. But what we can start to do through Bitrix, once we are comfortable with the system, we can start to automate these processes to free up time for staff and also simply reduce the amount of time for where we're then starting our projects. So let's say, for example, if we go into our CRM system where we've got our deal database here. One automation we have set up here is when the deal is won, we have a workflow set up which will then automatically create the project inside the system here. Okay, so here what it's doing is it's checking what type of project the customer has ordered. So here we've got different types of project work groups that would be created. And then we can see here the different tasks that are going to be automatically created. So for example, here, if it's a manufacturing project, it's going to create the work group, and then all of these tasks are going to be added into that project. So we can see here the different flows. So this is using the business process designer tool. So you need to have at least a professional cloud version of Bitrix24 to access this system that can then automatically create the project in the system, saving time, bringing the correct people into the project at the correct time. But also, it takes away any human error. So if we're assigning tasks to certain people, humans might assign that to the wrong person, which then stops the project from progressing in a timely manner. It's little things like this that can really add value to your business. So that's how we could automate project in the system. But then we also have automations on the lower level tasks as well. Okay, so here, based on the Kanban stages, we can create automations. So for example, here, we've got a trigger setup. So if the task becomes overdue, it's not completed by its deadline, we're automatically moving it to the checking stage on the Kanban. And we're sending a notification to specific people. And we're going to automatically change the responsible person for that task. So it's going to go to a more senior manager to get that task back on track, get it progressing through the system. So you can see from automating the creation of the project and the task to using the lower level automations on the task level, it can really start to add advancements to your Bitrix24 system. Okay, and then as we mentioned earlier on briefly, we talked about collabs. So this is where we can then start to invite our third parties into our Bitrix system. And if I just show you here what this looks like as an external user. So they do not have access to any internal area of your Bitrix. It's very simplified on the system here. And they would only have access to the collab space that you have granted them access to. But then within here, and then communicate with our internal colleagues within the Bitrix system. I can see tasks within here. So if you give them level of access, we can share task information with them through here. There is also the drive area for storing documentation. And as the external party, I could then add new documentation into here as well. And we've got the meeting and calendar area for storing meeting and events. So you can see how a useful tool that can be for businesses where they have a lot of external parties that they need to be able to collaborate with. Now, what we've seen here is available on both versions of Bitrix. The automations, you have to have at least a professional cloud tier, but there are additional benefits if you're using a self-hosted, such as customizing the portal where clients log in or your employees, you could have a branded portal. There are options to do advanced automations as we have access to the PHP code block. So if an automation can't be done using the native automation tools, we could create an advanced automation. And you have the ability to create page customizations with an on-premise. So if you're looking for a customizable approach to the system, then the self-hosted option is the most beneficial option for you. And then lastly, in terms of, we talk about dashboards here. So what we also have access to within our Bitrix system is the BI builder. So based on the task data, that workload management process, we can then start to build out dashboard reports that analyzes the volume of work our employees are working on. So here we can see our list of employees, and we're color coding based on the amount of overdue tasks that each person has. So it easily allows you to interpret that task level data from your Bitrix24 system. Okay, so that is a look today at perfect project management within Bitrix24. As you can see here are a selection of our up and coming webinars, and we are here every other Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And you can register for those webinars at intraface.com/webinars. In the meantime, if you do have any questions and you'd like to speak to our team, you can contact us, sales@intraface.com, and one of our team will be happy to speak to you. I've just put the email address onto the YouTube channel. So thank you very much for your time today. I look forward to seeing you all again in the near future. Bye for now.